Here they come. Wow. Awesome. Well, hey everybody. It's Meg Boaz with My Carrier Portal and Dale with FreightValidate. Thanks for joining us today. And we're excited to talk about, this synergy between MCP and FreightValidate and how we're really trying to basically change the game when it comes to fraud. So with our technology and our methodologies, and then with Dale's very objective data, I think that, this combination is really going to hurt the fraudsters, the bad actors, the scumbags. And today we're just going to kind of dig in. I really would love if you guys have questions or if you have comments, let's get active in the chat. So we will definitely, try to pause and make sure that we answer everything. And if we don't get to it right now, afterward, I do send a recap, the recording, and then I try to also answer everyone's questions afterward. So Dale, do you want to just introduce FreightValidate and then also how you differentiate yourself among the others that are in the same sector?
Sure. Well, thanks a lot, Meg. I've been I'm the founder of FreightValidate, and I started FreightValidate because I've been a broker for 32 years. I've been an owner operator. I've been a freight forwarder. I've been a driver. So I know what's going on in the industry. And the reason I started it is because I have a brokerage company and the other platforms just weren't doing it for me. They weren't really doing enough for it. And I just wanted to take my experience and develop something that would work, and something that's completely objective. We don't use subjective data because my feeling is that if you use subjective data, that can be manipulated and turn a bad guy into a good guy into a bad guy. So we use facts. We use things that are just unbiased, not hypothetical, not predictive. The person's either in violation of the law or they're not. And we really go with my idea is to go with the idea that let's not trigger these guys or find out about these guys after they've made a victim of somebody else. Let's be like the quality assurance department for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And when they approve some scumbag and let him come in, even though he's in violation of law, we're the guy that's going to stop him and say, hey, don't use this clown. We call it our Delta Force. It's don't even let them aboard.
Yeah. And since we went live with our integration, which was last Friday, we've had amazing feedback. There's going to be some bumps with just the newness of everything, but overall the comments that we're getting from customers are, overwhelmingly positive. But would you kind of talk about the two things that you guys check that I don't think anybody else is, and I guess regarding the 49 CFR and then the public law?
Sure. Well, one of the things that a lot of the platforms do, and I don't really get into a lot of the other platforms because I care about what I think I can do. And I don't know a lot about the other platforms, to be honest with you. But what I'm hearing is that, like, for instance, public law, 49 CFR 390.5T says that an entity, a motor carrier, cannot work out of a post office box, a UPS store, any virtual office. So we check that. A lot of the platforms say, it looks like it could be an office, a virtual office. Somebody may be reported. We have a robot that we built that every day checks everybody that comes into the system that's approved by Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. It checks all the thousands and thousands of post office boxes to see if they're affiliated with them, and we make sure that we know who they are. Over the past year and a half, we've had to do that manually because I want to make sure we caught everybody that's in there, and that's what probably delayed us, really sending everything live. Is there was we do a lot of manual work in the background. It's not just based on algorithms, data science, AI, all that stuff that just by itself will never ever stop fraud. The other one, so principal place of business is the first one. And there are tons of people that don't even know that they're in violation of that law. They don't know that they can't work out of a post office box. Our first day that we opened, we had a company that contacted us and said, hey, I was told that I'm in violation of something, so I can't be validated. This company came into business on July 5th, 1974. In 1975, we're talking 60 years ago, they changed their address to a PO box. So they're saying I should be validated. I don't have any freight guards against me. I've got all my inspections. I've got everything right, but it says I'm not valid. That's because you're in violation of 49 CFR 390.5T. So we told them about it, and they understood, and they're changing their address and becoming in compliance. The real problem comes with that too, is that in 60 years, the FMCSA never realized that they have somebody working out of a post office box. When was the entry audit done? When was there any subsequent audits done? How did they ever get a hold of these people in case there was an issue with them? How did they inspect their records? Well, it's easy, they haven't. And that's a problem we have on the safety side of it. Now, the other, oh, go ahead, Meg.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, that's a good point. And I'm glad that you brought up, how you have some automation in place to help things, but then you do a lot of manual investigation. So it's irrefutable that if you do not receive a freight validate status and it's not in a warning, it's the X, like the Delta. Don't even let them aboard. That comes from data that is basically saying they broke the law in some way or fashion. So like what Dale is saying with the 49 CFR and then the public 112, 145, which he's going to talk about here in a second. So there could be instances where, yes, this person is breaking the law knowingly. And then that experience that Dale was just referencing, they weren't even aware, and part of what Dale's been doing, and I just absolutely love, and I want to shout out to the rooftops, is he helps people get over these hurdles where, it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know, my brother, my sister, and blah, blah, blah. We're all in the same, business together. So that familial thing that we can talk about later, but then I didn't even know we couldn't have a PO box, so it's not just about, stopping fraud, getting the bad guys, but it's also about helping people so that they're not, put in the red when they didn't even know that they were in the wrong. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. If you want to talk about the public law.
Yeah, I think our two main missions are educate and eliminate. Educate the good guys, eliminate the bad guys. And so we do a lot through education. And the other thing that I think I want to make clear to everybody that's trying to now change their addresses, become compliant. For years, we've all heard that the way to do that is to fill out an MCSA 150 to change your address. Or, I'm sorry, an MCS 150 to change your address. Well, that is a required document that's go out and you can change your address on it. You can also put your number of trucks, miles driven, all those kind of things. However, if you use that document to change your address specifically, it initially goes to the DOT side. So in other words, it updates the MCMIS fields within the database of Safer. It also updates the SMS and the company snapshot. It updates those. But then it doesn't do it simultaneously with licensing and insurance on Safer. So that is a real big problem. So when somebody gets their identity stolen, for instance, it may show up on one part, but it may not show up. The new information may not show up on the other. It's just a mess. So the MCS 150 is not the way to change your address. The way to change your address is to fill out an MCSA 5889 form or do it online. It's more secure. It's more, the bad guys, are still used to using the 150, and they'll probably try to use the 5889, but it's a more secure way to do it.
Right.
So the other, I'm sorry, you want to go ahead and with something?
Oh no, I was just going to say we'll touch briefly on the public 112 if you want to.
Yeah. So public law 112-141 is also known by everybody else, or most everybody, is MAP 21, the Moving Ahead to Progress in 21st Century Law that came out, a decade ago. One of the provisions in there that a lot of people don't know about, even the bad guys don't really realize that we look into it, is it's paragraph, and you can write this down if you're taking notes if you want to. I just keep it at the top of my head. It's paragraph 32103 DI, where it talks about affiliations with other companies. It's a violation of that law to be affiliated with another company and not disclose that or deny that affiliation with the FMCSA. We look for that every single day. And we do find some people that say, well, I'm affiliated with the company because my brother-in-law owns it. We live in the same house. We share a phone number. And if that's disclosed to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, you're all fine and good. If it's not, you have to let them know. You have to disclose it. So an example would be Landstar. Of course, they're affiliated with Lygen, and they're affiliated with Ranger and Inway and Express America. So that's, most of the platforms say, hey, look out for these guys. They're affiliated. Well, it's not illegal to be affiliated. It's illegal not to disclose the affiliation or deny the affiliation. And we find, we have groups of, over 300 companies that are owned by the same folks, that owns MC numbers, same people own them. We reported those to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration a long, long time ago. There's a group in Pennsylvania that's got 14 MC numbers. The guy did not, and we go to FMCSA, the FOIA office, and get the actual documents. So in this particular case, the same signature, the owner signed these documents saying, I am not affiliated with anybody else. I'm a US citizen. Well, he's not. He lives in another country. We document all that. So they're obviously not validated. But so there's a lot of that. And a lot of companies aren't checking, a lot of platforms I don't think are checking that as close as we are, because you really can't do it with algorithms and data science, because they might use aliases and change their name from KRYSTAN to KRI. A computer will just read the name as it's written. It takes forensic investigation. And I came from a military background. That was my job, was to be an inspector and instructor and find problems and how to fix them. And I'm so glad I did that, because it put me in a position where I can have the opportunity to help other people and educate them while we're vetting other bad guys.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good segue into just, the background of MyCarrierPortal as a whole and then FreightValidate. I think that we really differentiate ourselves in the industry because we come from experience. Danielle, for instance, one of our salespeople, she has 8 years as a broker. Jay Pelkey was one of the originators for RMIS. Let's just go ahead and say it. So it's not that we just showed up on the market and we're like, hey, we're going to vet everything and we're amazing. I think you absolutely have to have experience and that's behind the technology. You can't just pop up and you're really good at marketing or business or what have you. Knowing the perspective of the broker, the shipper, the carrier, all the things that the carriers go through, the small guys, the small businesses and things like that are getting destroyed from these, one-off situations. We're big on trying to help them, and not make a good carrier, bad. Well, what's your saying, Dale? You'd rather let
Yeah, I'd rather let 10 put one good carrier and don't use jail.
Right. Yeah. And we just
That
don't want
goes
the
back
good guys to get penalized,
Yeah, that goes back to the subjective data.
Right.
You cannot make, when a carrier comes in, you can't say you're disqualified because you haven't had enough inspections. It just doesn't make any sense to me, because the
Right.
bad guy go and rent a Penske truck and go get a bunch of inspections, turn it back in and drive his junk and rip you off. So objective data allows people to manipulate it. And I'm sorry, subjective data allows people to manipulate it and change the outcome. So if you use objective data, it's just not, it's just way less chance.
Yeah. And really, like, if we boil down the differences between MyCarrierPortal, what we present to our customer base to, prevent fraud, and then what FreightValidate brings to the table, there's some overlap. I think everybody, and their mom obviously can check the FMCSA data, but there's a lot more that needs to go into that. And from the MyCarrierPortal side, we have a vast community within our, network and our portal. So we use other people's experiences to help others know more about that carrier. Now you can take that information and be like, you're going to override it, still use them. That is okay. That's absolutely okay. But we are suggesting, like, hey, this carrier has been blocked by 16 of our customers. There's something to that. Or if we have a rating system, if this carrier is rated super low, what's up with that? Recently too, I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago, we also added a feature within MyCarrierPortal that allows for incident reporting, you know, giving the power to both parties, basically. So if a broker has an incident, they can write up a report, but also that report will go to all parties involved. So if a broker has an issue with the carrier has a chance to respond. It's not just like, hey, this is out here, one and done, sorry. And then that carrier, their character is defamed forever because it doesn't go away. So, I think kind of, just leveraging the power to, help everyone. It's not just about the broker. It's also about the carrier. But then also, we do VIN validation. We capture the IP address when a carrier submits a packet. So there's a lot of things that we do. And then Dale, do you want to kind of touch on just like some of the differentiators of what you do, and then just kind of talk about like how this synergy is really going to like change the game of fraud?
Yeah. Um, I like to make it. I like to say that we're like the airport. When you go to fly somewhere, you have to go through TSA first. Then you put your bags on the belt to go through. So we're like the guy that's taking your ID and checking you at the gate. If you're good enough to get past that, then we'll let you put your bag on the belt. My carrier portal checks the belt, makes sure there's no guns in it, or the guy's not double broken or the guy. So it becomes more of a, hey, okay, you're violation of law, you're not in violation of law. I have ID'd you. I know everything about you. Go ahead. Now you can get on and go through the baggage claim or the baggage security area. So now if that guy does violate something, we know exactly who he is. It's not some scamster. And I think another point that Meg brought up that's really important to me. When I started this thing back almost a year and a half ago, I didn't charge anybody a penny for a year. I didn't plan on building a platform. I planned on building something to help my brokerage. And then people start hearing about it and say, hey, that's a good idea, that's a good idea. And then it just snowballed into today. And about 8 months ago, I was on a podcast. I was on the Logistics Lounge. And we were talking about, wouldn't it be nice if all of the people that know about fraud, and maybe with my experience of 32 years of dealing with actual in the trenches, moving freight, driving trucks, and all those kind of things, wouldn't it be nice if they could come into a round table and say, let's put all of our good stuff together and make a really hell of a vetting platform to eliminate fraud? The problem with that is that, this is my opinion, that greed stops that. People want to make money for themselves. However, MyCarrierPortal answered that call. They said, you're right, let's put some things together and make this thing so that we are just really putting an ironclad fortress around our good carriers and brokers. And we're the first company that I know of that vets brokers, carriers, MX carriers, freight forwarders, everybody. It's not
Hmm.
because for too long we've led people to believe that it's only carriers that are double brokering freight, and that is just probably one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life.
Well, we have a question that I'd like to touch on from Barbara. So, and you can take this and then I can comment. How do you know if an MC number has been sold?
Well, that's probably the hardest thing to catch right now. So we're developing, um, I, we're developing some technology that's going to help do that. I'm not going to say really what it is because we're going to release it, because I don't ever like to make a playbook for bad guys. But we have some process in place for that. The first process we have in place right now, and it's really tough because when the bad guys buy a good MC number from somebody, they're usually doing it because they maybe saw on LinkedIn, hey, I'm getting ready to retire. I want to go fishing. I've been doing this for 60 years. I'm just going to close my shop. Thanks for being a good customer. Guy has 1 or 2 trucks, just going to go out of business. The bad guy says, well, there's an opportunity. I can get hold of this guy and offer him $50,000 for an MC number, but make a caveat. Hey, don't change your Gmail address. I just want to take it over. And the next thing you know, he's ripping some people off for a lot of money. So it's really hard to catch that guy. One of the ways we do catch that guy is when we see a change. They have to make some kind of change. And generally, it's the bank account. Stolen money has to go into a bank. Fraudulent money has to go in a bank. So we're able to try and find that, or if the same company incorporates in another state. We just had this happen last week, how we found them. A Texas company with 20 trucks all of a sudden opened an incorporation and changed their address to some UPS store in Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh, boom, trigger. Let's find what's going on with this guy. We working with some of our finance partners, we find out that this guy has 5 companies that's incorporated. He has 1 bank account that all that money flows into from those 5 MC numbers, and we've caught it. So that's identity theft and bought and sold MC numbers is probably the hardest thing to catch. And luckily, we have the wherewithal and the partners to really start honing in on that.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to just like basic, ABCs too. Pick up the phone and talk to the carrier. We were on a podcast last night, and one of the things that was brought up was, yes, it's going to take a little bit more time, but it's going to be absolutely imperative to do so to just protect you in the future is pick up the phone, talk to the carrier, do a little interview sesh. Ask them about their equipment. They like to talk about their equipment, and then you can kind of tell. So sorry. Oh, you gotta love live stuff. So, ask them about their equipment. Does that check out? Is this what they have? Within MyCarrierPortal, we also, alert people if there's been a change within 60 days on the FMCSA. So I think just talking and having that relationship with the carrier and then also building a relationship with the shipper too. I think that's really important because you want the shipper to check the MC or DOT as soon as the truck pulls up. Does this person match this truck? So, and then
Yeah.
with the hands-free device, I mean, you could do that super easily. Yeah, if you want to.
Well, before I get into that, I think that one of the things is that, I've been a customer of MyCarrierPortal since they started. So one of the things that I really like is I get notified as soon as somebody changes their address, their phone number, their telephone number, and any of their customers get that. So the first thing I do when I see that change, I call the phone number of the guy's old phone number and say, George, are you still around? We have something that shows a different phone number. If it's good, great. We'll change our TMS system and all those kind of things. If it's not, we have an issue and George gets alerted fast. So, and I'm glad you brought up the technology. We're the only fraud fighting force or carrier identity company with training that offers a mobile app, a hands-free mobile app. We did this for the owner operators and for the shippers. So an owner operator is driving down the road and he finds out he's got this load coming in. His wife says, hey, we got this broker that's got a load for us. Rather than having to log into a system to find out what they're all about, he simply just needs to pick up his cell phone and he's got his headset attached to it and say, hey, Siri, check FreightValidate. My phone's not turned up. But anyway, if he says, hey Siri, check FreightValidate, is live. Hey Siri, check FreightValidate.
So what would happen here? So
Okay, so anyway,
FreightValidate actually has an app, and once you're a subscriber, you have the credentials to log in. You download the app, takes like 2 seconds, and if you have an iPhone, you can just ask Siri, "Hey Siri, check DOT number, blah 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 blah," and then what it's going to do is it's going to kind of like dig into FreightValidate's information, and it's going to say, "Oh, this person or this DOT number is not able to be validated." And then it kind of gives like a snapshot of basically all the reasons or, the reasons behind the determinations that Freight Validate came up with.
yeah, and it'll also say whether they're a motor carrier or a motor carrier or a broker. So a carrier that says, hey, hey Siri, check FreightValidate, sure, enter the MC number, and then it'll get an answer back that says this carrier is a motor carrier. Red flag. Why is a motor carrier trying to give me freight? The other way it works, and we found some real success with this at the shipper level, when they go out and look at the door of the truck and say, hey Siri, what's the MC number? And they'll get the MC number. And if it's a bad guy, they can call the broker and say, you're putting me in jeopardy. Okay, I will. Says, why are you sending this guy when he's rated bad within FreightValidate? So I think it works. People really like it. We have some people that have the Echo phone on the desk in their office, so they can just say, hey, FreightValidate, Alexa, check FreightValidate. So we have Alexa too. That works. And we're getting a lot of good feedback from that, and I'm glad we did it. So anyway, too bad I had my phone all muted for this call. So
It's okay.
Now Siri and Alexa all want to come in and answer.
Yeah, it's okay. So what was the main reason why you wanted to partner with MyCarrierPortal specifically when you had a lot of options?
Yeah, it's really funny. I get a lot of options from people that want to maybe invest in their brokers and carriers, and I just want to take their money because I'm not going to say, well, I invest in your company, you should make my company look good. I'm not going to be any part of any of that junk. But when MyCarrierPortal, when we started talking, it was just, for me, it was no brainer. First of all, I'm not only I've been a client of MyCarrierPortal for years. And so I understand the culture, I understand how good the platform is. I've been on the others before because I've been doing it for 32 years, and I know that it's way better. So if I want to be the best, I have to be related with the best. And so if we put the two best together, then there's make no mistake about it, we're going to try and cover every single base. And plus, I think if you take all that experience of years and years over at MyCarrierPortal, my experience as a broker, my experience in kind of doing investigation, you put all those things together and you got a pretty powerful force. And we believe in a culture that says not only are we going to tell somebody what's going on, we're going to educate them on how to do things better. So again, our kind of tagline was ever, we educate, we eliminate. Educate the good guys, eliminate bad guys.
Yeah, no, I love it. I don't know if we have a new question in here. One sec, I want to check the chat just to make sure that we're not missing anything. So what do you think are next steps for MyCarrierPortal and FreightValidate? I know that we have a ton of podcasts, webinars. We're going to the McLeod conference, but the Broker Carrier Summit. So where can people find out more about FreightValidate and what's coming up next?
Yeah, I think that the broker carrier, I shamelessly plug this all the time. I just think it's one of the best things to go to, because it doesn't just say, hey, all the carriers are going to be here, all the brokers are going to be here, and separate them. They're getting the straight scoop from, each other. We're going there together. I think that you can't get anything better than that. You're going there and meeting people that I can trust working with this guy. So what really works, and I'm gonna plug him a little bit. What really works nice is if, let's say a guy only has brokerage authority or his carrier authority for 3 months, he can go down there and be face to face with people. And there's nothing better than live vetting, talking to a person, shaking his hand, buying a cup of coffee and talking about his business. There's no better vetting than that. And that only happens at things like my Broker Carrier Summit. The good thing about this year's Broker Carrier Summit, I've invited Ken Riddle, who is the director of registration for FMCSA, to go and talk about what have you done before, what are you doing now, and what are your plans for the future to help our industry. And so I think those are some important questions that all stakeholders need to hear that in one room and not have it maybe, if I say to brokers it's this way, and if I say to carriers this way, they're all hearing the same answer at the same time. So that's really important to me. And as far as some future stuff, we have some really cool stuff coming up. We have, facial recognition verification, on-demand facial recognition verification that my brokerage uses and has been using for almost a year to identify who's taking my freight. We have some credit reporting stuff coming out. We just got a lot of things in our roadmap. So every day I wake up saying, how can I beat a scumbag today? How can I educate a good guy today? And that's just that's been my life for now almost 2 years.
Thank you. So I guess we do have a couple more things in the Q&A. So Barbara said that it looks like some of our competitors are coming up with new vetting options. And it says, is your validation more extensive? I think more extensive would just be that, you can't fight objective data. You can't. And then with the combination of, a community of folks, giving their information, their experiences and sharing that, having a rating system, customizing your risk assessments, what's important to, your company specifically. I think that combination right there is far more extensive than what anyone is doing, to be honest. And then we have a comment from Jean also. Where do we see what issues are causing the carrier to not validate? Sorry, these glasses are going out or my eyes are getting worse.
If you're subscribed to FreightValidate, or if you're with MyCarrierPortal, we're offering a 14-day free trial. You can go look on there, you type in the MC number, it'll tell you everything that we found about them. And members of, subscribers to FreightValidate need to be FreightValidate also. So we're not going to give a subscription to somebody. I'm not a profit over people kind of guy. I'm not going to give a subscription to some guy who wants to come in and find out how to build a better playbook. So yeah, there it is right there.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to just touch on this because, there's folks on here that are probably customers and non-customers. So for MyCarrierPortals specifically, you're going to have access to a 14-day free trial, and then also a heavily discounted pricing structure that's going to be rolled out pretty soon. So, within our system here, you simply just type in a DOT number, you search it, and then right here, you're going to have this FreightValidate information. There's 4 different statuses. This one right here was one that we touched on earlier. If it's an X, that means in some way, some fashion, a law is being broken, a regulation is being broken. And then down here, in this particular instance, this person actually has the first phase of the integration, and they are a subscriber to FreightValidate. So now you not only see this piece, they're not able to validate, but then you're also going to be able to see the details as to why FreightValidate, came up with this determination. So this is one of the people that were in a huge ring of scam that Dale worked super diligently on. And if you want to touch on that in a second, but so if you also are a FreightValidate member, you can just pop that DOT number in here too. And then you can pull it up here as well. But this information is going to be available within MyCarrierPortal if you subscribe to FreightValidate. And even if you don't, you are still going to be privy to this information right here. You're going to see their status. And once you start trusting the steps and investigative process behind what Dale and his team do, this should be enough. Like, hey, don't use this guy. Now, again, you can alter the risk assessment within MyCarrierPortal and you can override this. It's highly, we don't recommend that at all, but there is that option to do so.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that, the group you were talking about. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience or someone in the audience remembers back around the 4th of July, there's a big scam going on up in Chicago where a group of people were taking freight, transferring the freight among themselves and holding freight for hostage. There were two very large brokerages in the United States that were involved in that. And all the reports were showing there was about 22 companies that were affiliated in this whole big mess. And I was able to get with those two big companies and say not that there weren't just 22, there were 105. And we listed all their aliases and all of their MC numbers and all those kind of things. So it helped those companies really launch their investigation better. So this is something that does not come from AI and typing in a couple numbers and getting the information. This comes from investigating and finding out what's going on. We do that we do that all the time. We dig in and find out information about it. Because again, I don't want to make a bad guy. I don't want to make a good guy look like a bad guy. So we really make sure that it's detailed and that's just the crux of what we do.
If there's any last minute questions, please put them in the Q&A or the chat. And again, we'll get back to anybody with any lingering questions. If you want to get a hold of me, my email is mboaz@mycarrierportal.com. Or, you can subscribe to our newsletter on LinkedIn. You can check out our blog on mycarrierportal.com. And then Dale, do you want to kind of mention how they can get a hold of you if they have questions?
Yeah, I've been known to be on LinkedIn here and there or all the time.
#King.
Yeah. And my email address is info@freightvalidate.com. info@freightvalidate.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And we hope that, if you're going to see us in person, we'll be at the McLeod Conference in September, Broker Carrier in Texas in October, and lots more to come with podcasts and all sorts of good stuff. You're just going to see us everywhere. So thank you so much for coming on. Dale, any last words?
No, thank you very much. And let's all work together. I like to say the saying, let's stop fighting each other and start fighting the bad guys. And if we can do that, we'll win.
Yeah, that's huge. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys.